6 years. That's how long Alex had been at the same company. Same desk, three different chairs, two reorgs that took out both of his managers before they could take him out. And on an ordinary Tuesday, in a 15-minute one-on-one that was supposed to be about a deadline, he said the sentence he'd apparently been rehearsing in his car for 2 months. I have accepted another offer. He told me he watched his manager's face change in real time, like watching someone do long division in their head. By Thursday, HR had a plan on the table. A rise that hadn't existed on Monday. A title bomb nobody had approved in his last 2 review cycles. The flexible schedule he'd asked for 18 months earlier and had been told gently wasn't how the team operates. All of it. Inside of 48 hours. He didn't take it. And the line he said to me afterwards is the reason I'm recording this episode instead of the one I'd actually planned for this week. He said, I didn't leave because the money was bad. I left because they just proved they could have given me all of that at any point in the last 3 years. They only did it once I was already gone in my head. Now, I want to tell you about a different conversation. Same week actually, which is part of why I couldn't let this one go. A client, I'll call her Nadia, sat in my kitchen instead of over the call, and she had told her husband 2 nights before that she wanted a trial separation. Not because of one big thing, because of 11 years of small things nobody had ever said out loud in one sitting. And within a week, he was a different man. He booked the babysitter without being asked. He asked about her day and then did the thing almost nobody does, which is wait for an actual answer. He remembered for what she said was in the first time in years her sister's name. She looked at me and asked me the question that's really the spine of this whole episode. Why does it take almost losing me for him to treat me like I matter? I don't think it's a coincidence that both of these landed on my desk the same week. Honestly, I think it's the same story, just told in 2 different rooms with 2 different vocabularies. One we call counteroffer, the other we call a wake-up call. But structurally, identical event, identical mechanism, a person discovering apparently for the first time a version of generosity they had access to the whole time and simply hadn't spent. There's a pattern sitting underneath both of those stories. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it in your own life. At work, at home, both. We are not moved by what we could lose. We are moved by what we are about to lose. There's real research behind this. Loss aversion going back to Kahneman and Tversky decades ago. And the finding roughly is that losing someone hurts us about twice as much psychologically as gaining the same thing would have pleased us. Which means our brains simply aren't built to respond to a slow, reasonable, ongoing request. They are built to respond to a siren. So, the counteroffer isn't generosity, it's a fire alarm going off in a system that was, until that exact second, fast asleep. And the part that actually stings for people like Alex and for people like Nadia isn't the raise or the apology itself. Of course, it felt good for about a day. What stings is that it confirms that the capacity to do better existed the entire time. It just needed a threat to reach it. Now, I could stop right here and make this a tidy episode about managers and husbands who wait too long to show up. That would be an easy 15 minutes and a satisfying one to record, but it wouldn't be honest. And it definitely wouldn't be useful. Because most of us, myself included, more times than I'd like to admit on a microphone, have been standing on the other side of this exact pattern too. We don't ask for the raise or the recognition or the date night or the plain "I noticed you" on some boring low stakes Tuesday. We absorb it instead. We build a case, file quietly in our own head for months, sometimes years. And the first time the other person hears the whole thing unfiltered is the same moment we are already halfway out the door with a backpack. Which means we are not only being undervalued by people who won't give until they are threatened, sometimes, and this is the part I make my corporate training groups sit with, it gets very quiet in a room. We are the ones who never gave the other person a chance to respond to anything smaller than a threat. That's the uncomfortable half of this irony. It takes two to build a job or a marriage where nothing moves until somebody's hand is already on the door. Almost nobody tells you this part about the counteroffer, whether it comes from a company or a spouse. The data on it is bad, genuinely bad. The commonly cited figures in workforce research is that most people who accept a counteroffer leave anyway within the following year. Not because the rise wasn't real money, because the thing that made them unhappy was never actually the number. The number was just the only language the company knew how to speak at the very last second in a full blown panic. And relationship research tells us something eerily close to that. A grand gesture that only shows up after an ultimatum rarely repairs the underlying pattern because the gesture proves capability, not commitment. Alex never doubted his company could pay him more. Nadia never doubted her husband could remember her sister's name. What both of them were quietly grieving underneath the rise and the apology was every ordinary year. That same effort had been sitting right there, unused. You cannot counteroffer your way out of a trust problem. You can only rent yourself a little more time. I'll admit something here since we are being honest today. I ran a training session for a leadership team a while back. I won't say which company, they'd know exactly who they were. And I put a version of this question to the room. I asked them to name out loud one thing a departed employee had asked for while they were still there that the company had said no to and then quietly said yes to the moment the same person handed in their notice. Every single hand in that room went up. Everyone. And nobody made eye contact with me for about 10 seconds. That silence told me more than any engagement survey they'd ever run. So, what do we do with this? Because I don't build these episodes just to make you feel seen and then leave you sitting in it. That's not coaching, that's just company. And You deserve more than company from me. If you're someone who tends to wait until the threat, and if you are honest with yourself, you already know whether that's you. The work isn't learning to threaten better, it's practicing specificity on boring days. Not, I need more support, because that's a feeling, not a request. Try something closer to, I want to be considered for the senior role when it opens, and I'd like that conversation in this quarter, not after I've already started looking elsewhere. Say the smaller, truer thing before it's the only thing you have left to say. And if you're someone who tends to move only under threat, as a leader or as a partner, the work is different. It's building what I call a before habit instead of an at the door habit. In organizations, there is the difference between an exit interview and a stay interview. Sitting down with your best people on a random Tuesday, no crisis attached, and asking what would eventually make them leave long before they are halfway gone in their head. In a marriage, it can be as small as asking on an unremarkable evening, is there something you have stopped bringing to me? Because some part of you has already decided I won't do anything about it. One honest answer to that question will surface more truth than most people manage in years of almost arguments. Because the real skill was never generosity under pressure. Anyone can produce that. Panic is a great motivator. The real skill is generosity on a Tuesday when nothing is threatening to leave and nobody is watching to see if you will do it. And I want to be clear about something. This isn't a call to start manufacturing little threats to get attention either. Don't start pulling back on purpose just to see if someone notices. That's a different, sadder game, and it usually backfires because now you have taught the other person that fear is the only channel that gets through. The goal isn't to become better at leveraging urgency. It's to make urgency unnecessary in the first place. Alex took the other offer. Last I heard from him, he's about 6 months in, and he told me that the strangest part isn't even the new title. It's that his new manager checks in on completely ordinary weeks. No crisis required to earn his attention. Nadia and her husband are still in it. I'm not gonna hand you a neat ending because that wouldn't be true. But they started something in that first week that never once done in 11 years together. A 5-minute check-in every Sunday with one rule. You have to say the one true small thing before it's allowed to become a big thing. If you take one idea out of this episode, let it be this. Somewhere in your life right now, there is a person you have been meaning to tell something small, a number, a need, this actually bothered me. And it's sitting in a drawer because it doesn't feel urgent enough yet to say out loud. Say it before it's urgent. Because the version of you who says it calmly on an ordinary day gets an entirely different answer than the version of you standing at the door with the bag already packed. That's the episode. If any part of this landed somewhere for you, at work, at home, maybe uncomfortably in both, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. And if you've got a story like Alex's or Nadia's, one you would be willing to let me tell here, anonymously or otherwise, send it my way at swati.lifecoach@gmail.com. And if you are new here or you've just been quietly listening for a while without doing this yet, follow the show and hit subscribe. wherever you're watching or listening to this right now from. That one small action is genuinely how this reaches the next person sitting in Nadia's kitchen or Alex's car, wondering if anyone else notices this pattern too. Until the next time, this has been Relationship Ironies of the World We Live in. Go say the small true thing today before it has to be the big one.